Plumbers and electricians and HVAC contractors are just stuck in this mindset. Jacob, I could never charge that price.
Jacob Reese, the Vice President of Standard Plumbing Supply. This is one of the largest home services companies in the United States. I'm going to go over some principles and some things they have incorporated into their business that has elevated them to the pinnacle of success in that industry that you can apply to your business.
One of our competitors had a very good program. Started calling on a few of the customers. I'd walk in and say, sorry, I can't buy from you because I'm buying from this competitor. And I went to my father. I was like, hey, we got to do this. He's like, you'll never figure it out. If you create, you'll never compete another day of your life. I look at my business and everything that we sell, you can buy online. Your pay is not directly tied to your skills, but how well you can work with others. Communication is so important, whether you're selling a toilet or a piano or water heater, you know.
Okay, so in your mind, I want to ask you this question first. Before we get into your company and Standard Plumbing and all those great things, the culture, which, listen, you want to watch what we're talking about and listen to what we're talking about, because whether you're a sales manager, VP of sales, a business owner, whether you're an individual salesperson, you want to learn what this guy can bring to the table as far as your leadership and your persuasive ability. So in your mind, why does everybody need to really learn how to sell, how to persuade?
It's a great question.
Yeah. We start off with good questions.
Yeah. You mentioned, 1 out of every 8 professions is sales.
1 out of every 8 people that walk on the planet is in some type of sales job.
Yeah. And I think, everything that we do involves some level of selling. And learning how to work with people is something that I really learned from your sales training. And it's been very impactful to know, hey, if you create and remove that resistance, you can actually get to the point of finding out what that person needs and helping them and connecting on a higher level. Yeah,
I mean, everything is persuasion. Like in your offices, like let's say somebody's not in sales, somebody in ops, would they maybe need to learn how to persuade or influence?
Yeah, 100%. In operations, right? We sell toilets. Probably the most glamorous thing you can sell in the industry. And in operations, you have your ideas, you have supply chain, and we need to go to our sales team and say, hey, you need to be selling it this way, or you need to be communicating with your customers that, hey, this has a lead time, or hey, this is the process. And if you're not able to communicate that effectively, it can cause real issues.
They don't buy in.
Yeah.
Right. That's a really brilliant move. What you just said there, even like in ops or finance or anything, it's like, how do you present your ideas to be accepted by other people? Because if they don't know how to persuade or influence the salespeople about changes they need to make, the salespersons don't buy into it, and then that could cause people in ops problems down the road because they have issues from customers not understanding it, right? Or let's say you have the COO there, and there's he or she tasks them with like, hey, I want 4 of you to come in here with like the best idea to solve this problem. They all come in with great ideas, but which of those ideas is going to win? Not necessarily the best idea, but the person who could best communicate their idea is going to win. The perception of that value. So it might not be the best idea, but the person who knows how to get the COO to perceive it as the best idea will usually get that. That's sales persuasion influence. Deadly. One should really learn it. Okay, so let's talk about your company. So Standard, you've been around since 1952. You're a 3rd generation owner. You've got your dad, your grandfather. Your grandfather started it. What was your grandfather's name?
Dale.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually fought in World War II and
really
came back and went to New York University and got a master's degree in retail merchandising.
Did he fight in the Europe side or the Pacific side?
Europe side.
Really interesting. I have some stories there. My grandfather landed on Normandy, Utah Beach.
Yeah, my grandfather.
Maybe they're right next to each
Normandy
other
as well.
I like that. Okay, so what are some lessons that you have learned from your dad, that you've maybe learned from your grandfather that have really helped you in business and life?
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of lessons. I think one that really hits home for me is the lesson about stewardship.
Stewardship, in what way?
We believe, so much in God and what we do. A very religious family. And a lot of the things that we've been given in life have come from God. And having that stewardship of saying, hey, I'm going to take this, whatever it might be. And I mentioned selling toilets. We're going to be the best at selling toilets and the best at helping our customers get what they need that we can be. And I think when your motivation is specifically around being a good steward, it changes your desires. It changes what you're trying to do, who you're trying to be, and ultimately your mission as a company.
Well, you said something really remarkable there. You talked about being that steward, and that's the reason why your brand is here when it started from 1952, right? Because you took care. Not only did you sell all these toilets, right, which is, you need a toilet, but you took care of that clientele. And because you took care of that clientele, you fulfilled what you said you would do. That's why your brand is still here. You're talking, 75 years later?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine if you had not taken care of the customers? Nobody would know who you were, right?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't be here. And I think a lot of companies don't understand that. They're more about just, we want to make as much money, much profit as we can, but they don't understand how you'll never last long term with that type of mindset. It's got to be a balance, right? You have to have profit. You have to be able to pay your people. You have to make a profit to keep the business running, that stuff. But most importantly is you have to fulfill with your clients what you said you could do. And you guys have done an excellent job on that. What are some principles that maybe your dad or your grandfather has taught you that's really helped the culture of the company stay so intact?
Yeah. Going back to talking about the customers.
Yeah.
We have a saying.
Besides just the customers, the fulfillment, yeah.
We have a saying, it's the customer's the boss. Mm-hmm. And that actually comes from Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart.
Yeah.
He says, there's only one boss and it's the customer. And you can fire anyone in the company from the CEO all the way down to the guy taking the trash out simply by spending his money somewhere else.
That's true.
And everything that we do is focused on our customers. We want to make them
Give us some examples. Like, what do you guys do maybe differently than, because you guys are the industry leader with what you guys do. What do you guys maybe do differently than pretty much everybody else?
Yeah, I think we really try to put ourselves in their shoes. We take their feedback. Mm-hmm. One of the particular programs that we offer, VMI, it's an acronym for Vendor Managed Inventory.
Okay.
If you go to a typical contractor, plumber, HVAC, electrician, they're going to say they're overworked, underpaid. Mm-hmm. They're extremely inefficient. Yeah. And we go into their business. We take all of their inventory, take it out of their books, put it in our books. Mm-hmm. We organize their operations to give them a very clear process for their parts. Okay. And we're able to buy them back anywhere from 150 to up to 500 hours a year per tech who uses this program with us.
Oh, so you go into these companies that buy from you to help them out in that way.
And a lot of our competitors will look at it and say, what are you doing? Yeah. Right? You're going to have theft in there. It costs a lot of money. How are you going to have a full-time person? How do you afford that? Yeah. And we look at it and it's like, hey, we are here for our customers. And that's our whole motivation.
How has that helped you, like retention with all of these clients, like being able to do that? Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, we keep a very, very good line of communication with them. Mm-hmm. We have somebody in their warehouse, right? That individual is going to all their company meetings, their company parties, right? And he's working with them every day. And we have very clear key indicators that we track. We can give them back to the customers and say, hey, here's some opportunities where if you're able to sell your team on why you should use this, it can really affect your bottom line. And,
interesting.
Most of these companies in the trades, they're so small that you can pull a small lever and immediately they'll go to profitability.
Double their revenue, double their profit. When did you guys implement something like that? And what caused you guys to have this idea to do that?
One of our competitors had a very good program. And it was actually right when I started into the business after BYU. And I started calling on a few of the customers. Some of them had known my family for 30 years. Yeah. And I'd walk in and say, sorry, I can't buy from you because I'm buying from this competitor. And I went to my father. I was like, hey, we got to do this. He's like, you'll never figure it out. And that's kind of what he said. And then it got to the point where one of my best friends, actually, he ran a plumbing company. Yeah. And he called me and said, hey, Jacob, we want to do this VMI program. I'm about to sign with XYZ competitor. Okay. And he goes, do you want to do this? I was like, just give me 10 minutes. And so I called my dad back and I was like, hey, here's the opportunity. We'd love to do it. And he just goes, figure it out and don't lose money. Yeah. And we went in. I made a whole lot of mistakes. I still think one of the worst days of my life was going in and sweeping it up about 6 months after we had gone in there. Sure. But that was also, you always have those failures in your life. Yeah. And that's really those pivotal moments where you can learn from your mistakes. Yeah. And
you have one of two things. You can learn or you can go the opposite way, that victim mindset. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you're the type of person that never gives up. And the guy's like, hey, you're never going to figure, your dad never going to figure it out. What triggered in your mind to be like, I am going to figure it out?
Ooh, that probably goes back to maybe the program in my childhood, right? Sure. I have a late birthday, an August birthday. And so, graduating, I was like the last one to drive a car, right? The last one to go on a mission out of all my friends.
Yeah.
And, because I was younger, I think I weighed like 100 pounds in ninth grade. And so
Okay.
I couldn't really rely upon a lot of, my size or strength. That had
Sure.
to come from, hey, we're going to figure this out. And so I think I've always just had a mindset. There's no such thing as losing. It's either winning or learning. And as long as you continue to work at it, you can typically find a way through. And
How many children does your mom and dad have?
1 of 7.
Where are you at in that order?
They're right in the middle.
You're right in the middle. Interesting. That told me everything.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, because your older siblings had a little bit different upbringing, especially the first one for sure, the oldest one, compared to the last one. And the ones kind of in the middle kind of feel sometimes that they're in the middle. They're just kind of there. So sometimes that gives us, it's good because it gives you a chip on your shoulder that like you want to prove yourself or like do something to like stand out in a larger family. It's really good. Like you wouldn't be here, you might not be here doing what you're doing had you been born at very first or last. You just never know.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I love that. Oh, there's so much stuff in there. I love that. Okay, so I want to let's talk about, because you guys have obviously been very successful, huge company. How do you maintain that? Because a lot of companies get to where you guys are, but they don't stay there. Maybe they stay there for 5 years or 10 years, and then something happens and they start to go down. How have you guys been able to maintain that, besides the things you talked about?
Yeah. I think a lot to my father. He's been such an example to all of us in really trying to be a good steward. And I think that principle carries through to our managers and our people. We entrust them to be a good steward. We give them the numbers, the key indicators, and it's essentially their own little business inside of what we do as a company, and allowing our people that trust, right? Those people who run the VMIs for us, that's their job. And it's like, hey, your job is to make sure that customer's happy.
How many of those do you have, those type of people that you hire?
For the VMIs or for our stores?
Well, for the VMIs, like they go into each of these that you have.
We got about 60 locations, but in that program, about 80 employees.
Oh, amazing. That's interesting. And how many total employees do you have?
Just a little over 1,000.
Okay, good. And where do you want to go? I mean, you're already at this level. Like, where do you guys see like future improvements on where you can actually go?
There's in the industry right now, the adoption of AI, and everyone's saying, hey, AI is crazy, but AI doesn't care at 2 a.m. when your water blows up, right? And your toilet blows up and stuff starts going everywhere. Yeah. And the reality that there's a shortage in the trades, right? The CEO of BlackRock just came out and said there's 500,000 jobs short. Really? The CEO of NVIDIA is saying that the next millionaires will be plumbers, electricians, HVAC technicians.
The trades.
And the trades.
What do they feel is causing that?
Well, everybody says go to school and get a degree.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
So not as many people are doing it.
That pipe, a few years ago, was it the Keystone pipeline that they shut down?
Like South Dakota or North Dakota
something like
or
that.
something. Yeah.
They wrote this article of like all these tradesmen are going to be out of a job and you need to go to school. Yeah. Right. And the irony there is, the person who wrote that article, I don't know if they have a job anymore because AI can write that article. Yeah, exactly. And so you ask, where are we going? And I would say it's right towards our customers. Yeah. And if we can help them and provide them solutions, systems that make their companies better, I believe there's always going to be a place for a plumbing wholesaler. Oh, for sure. In their business.
100%. I mean, AI is a tool. It's going to replace certain jobs. But just like anything, humans adapt. Like humans are the most adaptable beings that have ever existed in my mind. Because if you look at the Industrial Revolution, if you look at the writings they literally said that we won't need humans. Machines will make everything. There's not going to be the jobs, blah, blah, blah. And all it did was create more jobs in industries that didn't exist. I could go on and on and on, like every, 3-4 generations, same thing. Like internet came out. What did they say? We're not going to need salespeople. People are just going to order online. All it did was create more industries, like hundreds of more industries. Same thing's going to happen with AI. It'll replace some jobs, but what it'll do, it will create more industries that do not exist right now. And I think there'll be millions of more jobs because of AI, actually, in different maybe trades and some other areas as well. So it's kind of fascinating. Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about decision making. How do you guys you got a big company. How do you guys make high level decisions as an organization? Walk us through how that looks like. A lot of people probably want to know.
Yeah. Well, if you look at our industry, there's a few very dominant players that are owned, they're publicly traded.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of systems and processes. And a lot of the time it can be short-term thinking. Hey, we've got to hit this quarter's profits. We got to make this decision. And so they'll go to customers and raise prices overnight.
Yeah.
And so to go and say what we do, it goes back to that customer. It goes back to being a good steward and saying, hey, we want to be here in 50 years from now. This decision to do blank, right? We might win in the short term, but in the long term, it's probably a bad decision.
It's going to hurt us, yeah.
And so I think a lot of our decision processes involve the people on the front lines of saying, hey, what's going on? And then how do we make a decision that will not only help us succeed today, but also in the future?
That's a really good mindset. How often have other companies tried to come in and acquire you or offer to acquire you?
I get an email once a week.
Okay. And what is your guys' mindset on that?
The answer to the question is, what would we do?
Yeah.
Where would the 1,000 employees go? I've watched a lot of my customers sell their businesses to private equity.
Yeah.
And some of them have gone very well, right? Others have had mass layoffs and mass changes of the culture and the people. And if your motivation is to be here today and in the future, and for those 1,000 employees that depend on you every single day, it's not about so much the money. It's about trying to continue this forward. And that's our goal, to continue moving.
Jacob, what do you want your legacy to be at the end of the day?
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
I look to how my grandfather gave standard plumbing to my father. He didn't charge him for it. He gave it to him. And I view myself in that same situation. Graduating from BYU, I've watched a lot of my friends, go into other industries and do really incredible things. But I've just felt this sense of need to bless those who work at Standard, to bless the customers that buy from us. And so the legacy is that I made everybody's life who was around me better by being the best steward that I could be.
What does that do for you, though?
It's when your motivation changes from trying to make money to helping others. Tony Robbins says the secret to living is giving.
100%.
And I think so much, everyone's looking for the next greatest thing and the next AI thing. And they're all the same principles that are just wrapped up in a different book or a different
just a different vehicle. Just a different vehicle to get there. I what you just said is brilliant, because I have a personal opinion that I don't believe the most successful people in life are necessarily happy. I believe they're fulfilled. I believe there's a big difference of being happy and fulfilled. I believe to be happy, sometimes we almost settle, where we don't keep striving to get better. We don't keep striving to serve the customer. We don't keep striving to have a better business. We don't keep striving to help more people. But I believe that we can be fulfilled in that. Because if we become happy, it's almost like we become complacent where we're at, and we stop trying. It's good enough, right? And it sounds like you're the type of person that's not willing to say it's good enough. And that's, I'm assuming, a big reason why you guys have gotten to where you're at.
Yeah, you're either you're growing or you're shrinking.
Yeah.
In every aspect of your life. And going back to God, I think when you're in line with God, there'll be very specific thoughts, very specific impressions. We're all entitled to them every single day.
Yeah.
And if we act on them, they'll continue. That noise will get louder. And if we ignore it, it'll kind of get turned down. And I think to those people who I think they're doing their very best, they might just be lost, distracted. And that's really where, I sell toilets, but how do you bring people back to those things? And how do you help them is just trying to be the very best that you can be.
Yeah. Well, you seem fulfilled. That's really good. What I want to know is, so you're hosting events now. So how long have you been hosting events? I know we're doing an event together. We partnered on an event, I think, coming up here in February up in Utah. Utah is my favorite state, by the way, so I have to go skiing while I'm up there.
Yeah.
I went to school there. What caused you to want to partner with companies like mine or other companies on these events?
Yeah, it's
something out of the ordinary for your industry.
Yeah. My father has come to me with a lot of questions about why we're doing events. Saying we're at a wholesaler, but what are we doing?
Yeah.
A mentor of mine told me that if you create, you'll never compete another day of your life. I look at my business, and everything that we sell, you can buy online. And the adoption of online, and how is that going to take away a whole bunch of jobs? Well, people still buy from people that they like, and as you say, trust.
Trust to give them the best result.
Yeah.
If they like you, that's just a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, going to our events, it's a level of helping our contractors. Most of my customers, outside of the very large private equity groups and the very large plumbings, it's just kind of the chuck in a truck.
They just kind of do the same thing over and over.
I had a customer, a couple examples I'll share. One of them, I was out on a trip with him, and it was a few-day trip, and about halfway through, he just became extremely aloof. And immediately I began to look into it. I was like, what did I do wrong? What's going on? Well, it wasn't until the end of the trip when I sat down and said, hey, is everything okay?
Yeah.
And his eyes, welted up a little bit. And he goes, hey, Jake, this has been a lot of fun. But he goes, I just got a text from my wife. She said, I hope you're having fun, but when you get home, I've got divorce papers on the counter.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And, this guy has given his life for his customers. He's built an incredible business.
Yeah.
But one of the most important responsibilities in his life was kind of in shambles.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, looking at the industry, it's like, how do we sell more toilets? But if your customers aren't right, they're not going to be able to buy more toilets. If they're not a profitable business, if they're not paying their bills, that's really hard. And so I've noticed and seen, they don't know how to price right. They don't know how to market themselves. They don't know how to organize their operations and their teams.
Yeah.
And, the prices today, people are complaining that plumbers and electricians and HVAC contractors are charging as much as doctors, but they go to school for that. There's a shortage. They should. And a lot of them are just stuck in this mindset of saying, Jacob, I could never charge that price to my end customer. And
so they keep their customers in price-based thinking rather than the results-based thinking.
Yeah.
People will pay far more if they feel like they're going to get a better result.
So what would you say to when a contractor comes to me and says, Jacob, I could never charge that? And the irony there is that he's struggling to pay his bills.
What, ask him?
And
well, it depends on how you view selling. Is selling something you do to people, or is selling something you do for people? Do you do it to them or for them? So I've got to reframe their way of thinking of what selling is.
Yeah.
Because if they believe they're doing it to them, like selling is a bad thing, like you're manipulating them like it's something bad, anytime they go to raise prices or anything, they're going to feel like they're going to have a lot of anxiety and they're going to be nervous. That's what's going on in the nervous system. But if I can reframe their way of thinking because that's what selling is, you're doing it for them. Why are you doing it for them? Because you're solving their problems and getting them the result they want. And if you don't do that, their problems stay the same. Nothing ever changes, or they go to somewhere else. So that would be the first question I would ask to get them reframed into what selling actually is. Because if I can reframe them that I'm doing it for them, then it makes sense that I can raise my prices. But if I feel like I'm doing it to them like it's bad, I'm going to feel nervous about that.
I like that a lot.
There's more to that, but that's where you'd start.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple reframe right there.
Yeah. So in a long way to answer your question, the most fragmented industries, there's new plumbing, HVAC electricians that are popping up every day.
Sure.
But they don't have the help, the tools and the resources to run successful
Maybe they don't know how to communicate.
Yeah.
They don't know how to scale with SOPs. They don't know how to manage their finances, right? They're good with what they do. They just don't know how to do the business stuff. I think that's brilliant that you guys go in there and help them with the business stuff. So this is why you do the events. So like we're a sales training company. You want these guys to be able to feel comfortable in communicating their message. Because here's what I always say. It's always the POV, the perception of the value. And you probably heard me talk about that at SalesCon when I did the keynote there a couple months ago. It's not necessarily who has the most valuable thing. That's the reason why the prospect's going to buy. It's just how they perceive the value of your thing. That's what it's going to cause them to buy. So you could have like something really, really crappy, right? And people will buy it like hotcakes because they perceive the value much differently, because the person communicating they just know how to frame that better, right? Whereas you might have the best thing in the world that nobody's buying, even though it's the best thing, because the person communicating it doesn't know how to frame it well. And that's why they don't buy. So it's not necessarily the thing, like how valuable a thing is, it's how the prospect perceives the value of that thing. And whose responsibility is that? The person talking to them. So, as we say a contractor, they might think, I'm not in sales, but are they trying to get more clients? That means they're in sales, right? So, even if we're not getting paid like a commission on something, what are we trying to do? We're trying to persuade, influence, and move other people to our way of thinking every day. So if I'm a business owner trying to get more clients, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to persuade, I'm trying to influence, I'm trying to move others, right? So everybody's really in sales now. If I'm an employee trying to convince my boss to give me a pay raise, what am I doing? I'm trying to persuade, influence, move others, right? I mean, it can go on. Everybody's in sales, no matter if we get, if I'm a mom trying to get my kids to go in bed on time, what am I doing? I'm trying to persuade, I'm trying to influence, I'm trying to move others. Everybody's really in sales. If I'm an ops person trying to convince my boss to accept my idea, what am I doing? Persuasion, influence, moving others. That's all there is. Everybody's in persuasion. If I'm a bishop at the church and I'm trying to help a couple, stay together, what am I trying to do? Persuade, influence, move others. Everything's communication. So I love it. So this event, tell them about the event coming up. We got an event in February that we are doing with you guys. I'm really excited about it. You can have like 500-600 people there. If they're in your industry, what would be a reason why they might want to go there to that event?
Yeah. As you shared, sales is everything that we do. Mm-hmm. And especially when it comes to a home service company, mm-hmm. communicating that value is incredibly important when they're in front of the homeowner. Mm-hmm. Why should they go with them versus the next guy down the street? Yeah. And learning an actual tried true process that they mm-hmm. can give to their people mm-hmm. and train, mm-hmm. it could change their entire company. If they're priced right, and yeah. if they sell and close those deals, yeah. providing the value to the customers, yeah. it will change everything. Yeah, like Anthony was saying out there in the hallway, I believe it's our 5th biggest industry we train now, home services, home improvement. So when we go in there, we will teach them like different questions that they might not be asking now, and really how they're asking the questions, the tone that can quite literally change their business overnight. I mean, we've seen it with hundreds of thousands of clients in all industries, but especially your industry, it's a big space for us. When is the event? Do we have the event details, all that stuff? Where would they go to? Yeah, so it's February 9th and 10th in Sandy, Utah. Sandy, Utah, baby. Yeah, hometown. Yeah. And really, really excited for the event, excited for our contractors to learn more. Yeah. And it's what I love about the NEPQ process is you can immediately apply it into your sales. And yeah, it was like right after the event I went to you earlier this year. Mm-hmm. We were moving. That's like 2 months ago, wasn't it? Yeah, I had to sell my piano. Yeah. And so we were in our new place. We're going back. I had the piano still there. And they just kind of let themselves in. But it was like the lady's mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And they were in there like looking at it. And they were taking all these pictures. And by the time I got there, they had already made up their mind that it's not a good idea. Yeah. And so they went outside, like, give us a minute. And then this girl calls me, and my parents say this is terrible. And I in that situation before, I don't know what I would have said. Mm-hmm. But I said, hey, what was it that kind of made you like the piano in the first place? Yeah. And immediately she started telling me everything that she liked. Yeah. And then I said, well, what made you change your mind? And she's like, well, there's a little bit of dirt on it. And I had a little rag and I wiped it off, right? Yeah. And meanwhile, my wife is pregnant and she's like, you got to sell this piano. And so anyways, I ended up asking the right questions and it totally changed the conversation. And the next day they brought their truck. Yeah, you flipped the frame. You took her from, negative based thinking to the end result of why she even liked it in the first minute. So it's an automatic reframe to get her back into that mindset of why she was even looking at it. And then it all starts from there. It's just an easy reframe that you did right there. And that's why it doesn't really matter what you're doing, because you're not, obviously you're not selling to a contractor right there. You're selling to a lady that buy a piano. But I can take the same principles that we're teaching your salespeople and apply it to anything, my personal life, anything. It's just a way of communication. It's not just like I'm just using it for sales. Yeah. Well done. I think of How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in the introduction of the book, it talks about how your pay is not typically directly tied to your skills, but how well you can work with others.
Yeah.
And communication is so important, whether you're selling a toilet or a piano or
Anything.
a water heater, or a sewer repipe, whatever that might be. Communicating and learning how to work with others is incredibly important.
It's life or death in life. Like the ones who get good at communicating will never have financial problems. Let's just put it that way. The ones who don't get like into communicating are typically the ones that have problems because they're controlled by outside factors. They're controlled by the economy. They're controlled by prices, right? The ones who know how to communicate and frame, none of that really affects them because they're up here with their communication skills. And those are acquired skills, right? Were you born with advanced questioning skills? Anybody?
Absolutely not.
Were you born with like advanced tonality skills or advanced objection handling skills? Unlikely, right? Those are skills that we acquire, that we learn, and that's why I'm so glad that you're here. And I think we started training your salespeople here a while ago.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Been about 6 months.
6 months. How's it going?
Really well.
Good.
Yeah, there's a situation just like 2 weeks ago where one of our largest customers came to us with a big pricing objection. And typically when those things happen, I've been buying from you for 10 years and I need a credit on all these things.
Right.
And immediately it's straight on the defense. And the crazy part about it is one of the sales gals on my team, typically something like this would spin her up and she'd call us, I don't know what to do. And we'd call a meeting. I'd have to go see the customer and her manager.
Stuff,
And, she was able to sit down with the customer and say, well, tell me more about this part number, right? And it ended up being the wrong item. And so she was able to sit down with them and she's like, well, oh, is that the same one as, this one that we're talking about? And she didn't tell the customer, she just asked them the questions.
Yeah.
And immediately it changed the entire conversation. Like, well, we love you anyways. We're so grateful. Thanks for coming in.
Disarmed her. Disarmed the person. Yeah.
That's what your sales training is able to do for us. And it's not a level of deception. It's not
selling is not something you're doing to them. Selling something you're doing for them.
Yeah.
Because if she hadn't learned from us how to get that person's guard down, how much money would you guys have lost?
Yeah. Well, and the industry is full
and
of...
how much would that have impacted them? Because then maybe they went through somebody else that doesn't do what you do, and now they don't get the same service. All because she learned how to disarm that person.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one example. I could give you a dozen more, but it goes back to one of our national sales manager. He was my family's enemy for 40 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And somehow, some way, I convinced him to come work for us. And they say hire your enemies. It's one of the best things that we do.
Do you know why? Because psychologically, they'll be more loyal to you than your friends.
Wow.
Yeah, psychologically, it's been proven in science. So if somebody's your enemy and then you disarm them where they now become your friend, they'll be your most powerful ally, even over your best friend who works for you. Most of the time when you hire your best friend, because they know your weaknesses, they'll typically sometimes do bad stuff.
Wow. Well,
go.
It's changed the way we do, his dad and my father, and even my grandfather, right? They enemies. Yeah. 40 years. I did not like the guy. When I started,
it's like the Wild West families.
It was everything I did was on price.
Yeah.
And that's when I got to the point, I was like, you're either going to create or you're going to compete.
Yeah.
And one of the things he would always say is, go slow and drink a lot of water. Mm-hmm. When he first said that, I'm always trying to go and change and do great things, but he says it to me every day. Mm-hmm. But on a lot of the sales things, you hear something and immediately you begin to buy into that story, and you go straight into trying to solve it. But stepping back and saying, hey, what's going on, and actually learning what's happening. Yeah. Your processes have really helped myself and my sales team know what those issues are.
You guys are only 6 months in. Once you guys get 12, 18, 24 months, 3 years in, you'll be on a 3 levels up than where you are now. It takes a while to master those skills. Yeah. You guys are doing well. Congratulations. All right. Where would they go to the event? Where would they go to learn about what you guys do?
Yeah, it's go.standardplumbing.com.
Okay, perfect. We'll put that in the show notes. Look, if you're in the home services industry, you want to be there because we are going to train you how to disarm your prospects to get their guard down. If you're having problems with people trying to ask for discounts, or you feel commoditized, you're always lowering your prices just to get the deal and your profit margins are shrinking, you probably want to be there because we're going to show you how to take your people from price or cost-based thinking to results-based thinking. Typically, within the first 3 or 4 questions, we're going to teach you how to ask for your industry. A lot of other things. We're going to show you some objection prevention techniques. And if you do get some objections, how do you help the prospect overcome them themselves so you're not like that pushy salesperson nobody likes. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Jacob, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah.
And you guys are crushing it. Congratulations on your results, and looking forward to doing the training there in February. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Until next time, Jeremy Miner, we'll see you soon.